Welcome everybody to the show. I am your lead host, Yvette LeBoy, and today I have the honor of interviewing psychotherapist Marissa Muller. Welcome, Marissa. How are you?
Great. Nice to see you. Thank you for having me, Yvette.
My pleasure, Marissa. I was really looking forward to this interview. I know you have a wealth of information to share with our viewers, so I'm super excited to get started. I wanted to ask you, can you share with our viewers what type of practice you have and what community you serve?
Well, actually, I was trained for traditional psychotherapy, but I do utilize alternative methods as well with my treatment with clients. I find that the complementary sciences work well with traditional therapy. A lot of people find great results from it. So that's what I use. And I actually work in the Hudson Valley, but I do also work out of Brooklyn. I am there at least once a month. Well, prior to the pandemic, I was going once a month there because of my practice was initially only in the city, but since I've been up here in the Hudson Valley in Dutchess County, I service both areas.
Wonderful. Um, so so now that with the pandemic, are you're doing telehealth?
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. Um, I have had, of course, it's the same in my office as anywhere else. Once we were allowed to go back in, all the precautions have to be taken. Still have to take temperatures before clients come in, and everything has to be cleaned in between each client, and there has to be absolute time for that. So there are more spaces with appointments, and everybody wears a mask. And of course, sanitizers out, and we sit more than 6 feet apart. So, but most people are comfortable with the telehealth, and I do use a service that is HIPAA approved to ensure security, safety, and I have a lot of clients that use the telehealth. But I've had a type of telehealth prior because I've had some clients who lived in New York and then moved out. Some are in Jersey, some are in California, and they still contact me. So I was using that system before.
Okay, great. Marissa, what made you decide to do the work that you do? And you also incorporate alternative therapy. So, what made you decide to do the work that you do then incorporate the alternative therapies?
Well, I knew that I wanted to work with people when I went to school. I knew that I wanted to help people and I wanted to work with them. I preferred working with people rather than paper. So I knew that there were certain avenues open for that. And I really enjoyed working with people, finding, and I worked for the city of New York, and I found that every day was different with human beings. So, and that was part of the attraction for me, and the fact that I could help. And I started working with children first, and then I segued into adults as well as children in my private practice. But I found that speaking with the clients, and I've been doing this a very long time, that traditional therapy was fabulous, but it didn't work all the time. And so they were looking for other alternatives. I started to incorporate some different types of alternative methods and artistic methods, and they preferred that. They were enjoying it, and they felt that it was almost like they weren't having any kind of therapy going on. So I started to use more and more of that. And now it's probably 50-50
Okay,
in practice, along with cognitive therapies that are used.
wonderful. That's great. Have you seen a rise in more individuals seeking therapy since the pandemic started?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Most people are looking for some assistance to make sense out of all of this, to, I guess, calm their fears. They're looking to make contact with others because many people are home alone. And that's so frightening, especially if you were dealing with certain issues before. And now everything is just exacerbated by being home alone, and feeling so uncertain, helpless. A lot of people feel that they have no control over anything that's happening. And that has definitely opened the floodgates for people to look for help.
Okay. Um, I totally agree with that. I can see why so many people are going to therapies. I have going to seek therapy because I have some friends who are doing the same thing right now as well. And the majority of them do live alone. I've been lucky. I have my family close by to me, and my sister lives with me as well. So, I have that support from my family. So I feel very blessed. But some people aren't that blessed. Some people live alone. Some people have family in another state. So I can only imagine how they must feel. Do you feel that people feel alone or having a hard time during the pandemic because they are alone and they just, I don't know, maybe now we have to go and dig in deeper and kind of see that those imperfections exist between within us?
Well, of course, when you're physically alone, you're also alone with your thoughts. And for a lot of people, sometimes it's even the first time that that's happened because um, in dealing with clients, you find a lot of people, they get very adept at finding things to do so that they're not alone with their thoughts. And this time it was almost thrust upon them. So they're dealing with that now. And, it is all in the relative resources. And everything makes a family. So it doesn't have to be a biological family, but, we can make our own families and we need our own families. And when there are, relative resources around, that's frightening for people. I mean, there's nobody that they can reach out to. That the support is so very important. And there they are all alone with their thoughts and no support sometimes. And sometimes if there is support, now this has been thrust upon them, they can't get to their support because their support can't get to them. That's also frightening.
Yes. Yes, I see how that can be frightening for so many, and so many people are going through that right now. Marissa, as a mental health professional, how are you dealing with the pandemic? I know that you're helping so many people and you're doing some really great work in the world by helping those right now who are going through such a difficult time during this pandemic. But how are you? Because you're human. How are you dealing with this pandemic and with its stressors?
Well, to be honest, I have a lot of support, a lot of support, a lot of family support, a lot of extended family. We've used a lot of technology to chat, sometimes quite often in the day, but chatting often. I and I have a lot of people around me. I also have a lot of hobbies. And to tell you the truth, that first 3 months was fabulous for myself and my daughter staying home. We so enjoyed being home and being on break, as we called it. We were able to spend time doing things at home, doing things that we like to do. A lot of our hobbies, working outside was wonderful. Um, so I was able to handle things because I have the vast support system that I have.
Okay, that's wonderful. It's so important to have a good support system. I recently did an interview with another therapist, but she's a therapist from the UK, and that was another amazing interview. And we spoke about the mental health stigma. And I was surprised to find out that the same stigma we have here in the US, they have it in the UK. And it boggles my mind to hear that people have such a negative feeling towards therapy when, I mean, it does a world of a difference. As a mental health professional, Marissa, what is your take on that? Why do people feel this way about therapy when it's such a wonderful thing to do?
Well, I think first of all, I have to say Hollywood has a lot to do with it. Movies, books, how they portray things. Uh, as you may know, pictures, it's very visceral. So you see someone getting electroshock therapy, on a huge screen. That's frightening. That's scary. That's your first introduction to it. Of course, that's not what happens, but it happened prior in history. And so people hear the horrors and that frightens them. And they don't realize that that's not what goes on, and it doesn't have to go on, and they're in control um, of whomever they want to speak to and whatever they want to speak about. The best thing to do is find the best person for you as the client. Not every therapist is for everybody. You have to do your interviewing. Really, that's what it is. You're hiring us. We're your employee. So you have to pick someone that you want to work with. And that's really important. And I think really because of what they've seen, they're so fearful they don't even want to make a call. And it's really just to make contact with somebody, just to find out that you're not alone also, or that what you're thinking or your fears that you have, it's not only you, there are others too that may have that may suffer with the same thing. So it's always best to find out that you can get help.
That makes so much sense. Now that you mention it, it really does make a lot of sense, and I could see why people have that stigma towards therapy. Because when I come across people that I speak to, even in my field, and a lot of times I recommend, with the work that we're doing, I recommend that they go see a therapist. And a lot of them are like, no, I'm not doing it. And it always boggles my mind, because I'm like, it's a great thing to do. I've done therapy in the past, and it's done so much to help me, not only with dealing with certain stressors in life, but just creating a better version of myself. So thank you so much for giving your opinion and giving clarity on that particular question. I think the viewers are going to get a lot from that, and may give them um, a different perspective now on therapy and what that is, instead of having that negative stigma towards it. We do a support group every first of the month and third of the month. It's a support group call, a mental health support group call. And I would love, I'm going to extend the invitation. I'm inviting you to come on one evening and join us, because I think the information that you're sharing is so important. And I think that our support group callers would also get a lot from it as well. So we can talk about that afterwards.
Oh,
That'll be
thank you. Thank you. I would love to help. It's funny you say it because I always tell people that they have to see other people besides me, because nutrition, sleep, um, recreation, all of these things are important as well. It's not just therapy, and by no stretch of the imagination, just medicine. I'm really not a believer in just medication, and we're going to take a host of medications and everything will be fine. I don't believe that. I'm not saying that it doesn't help some people, but I don't think that that should be the first thing that people hear when they come through the door, that, everything that they can do to help won't work, because there are people who do say that, but I don't believe that. I think that yes, sleep, eating right, all of that is important.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree with that. It's, well, if you think about it, the body is a whole, right? We're one complete. Of course, you have doctors that treat the heart, that treat the liver, but when you think about it, we're just one whole being. And you got to treat everything. You can't just treat the brain without treating the whole body and feeding it and giving it what it needs, and the rest and the food and everything else, like you just mentioned. Social media, Marissa, social media. What do you think about social media and all the misinformation that's on there? I feel that this causes a lot of fear and stressors for everybody, especially now during the pandemic. There's so much misinformation. It's so confusing for people. Um, what is your take on that? What is your opinion?
The best thing I can say to people, and I've had clients that come in, or they come on to telehealth and it's, oh, did you see this? Did you see that? I scroll on by. There are only so many hours in the day. I cannot read all of that. I like to try to see from a few different sources to collect information quickly, but I have so much to do that I can't listen to all of that. And I think that a lot of time, all that negativity, these are people that are fearful, they're hurt, they're angered, and I think that they lash out. And really, most of the time, it's not to whom they're lashing out, but it's themselves. It's what's going on with them. It's all about them. And I think that a lot of people, when they see what's out there, they think, oh my gosh, they're giving us this information, they're attacking us, they're addressing it to us. But really, they're just almost speaking out loud because they're so hurt, they're so harmed. It's often sad how they behave and what information they choose to leak out or create or change or alter. And I feel bad for those that are out there reading it, because sometimes it boggles the mind. How much can you possibly collect? How much can you look at? And then you're already sitting home alone. You're already fearful of the unknown. I think a big part of this pandemic is the unknown, the uncertainty, the feeling of helplessness. For everybody, even milestones. People forget even like small milestones, a wedding anniversary, you can't go out, a grandparent's birthday, you can't go there. That's a lot to take in. And then you see all this misinformation. I say, find another hobby. There are plenty of things on social media that have groups that talk about art, gardening, herbs, whatever you may like, even crochet or coloring, whatever it is that you like. There are groups that discuss that. It's better to deal with people that have a like mind and the same interest than to try to collect all this misinformation.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's a great share and great perspective for people to take on the information that's out on social media. You talk about the coloring. I started giving adult coloring books to my clients, and they really got a kick out of it. They really like it, and they find it to be very helpful, because I remember in the past I was offered an adult coloring book, and I really got a lot out of it. I found it very entertaining, and I think now during this period, I think it's just good for people to do that, because it's a sort of way of being creative, and I don't know about you, but I love being creative. And when I create something and kind of look at what I created, even if I cook a meal, being able to create something like that for me is like, wow, I did this. This is a part of me that I created, and I'm giving it to the people I care about.
Yes, I think that's fabulous that you give them out. I actually like it. I'm a doer and I don't sit often. And I find that type of work very meditative, because I'm forced to sit and be mindful of only that task at the moment. And I really find it very relaxing, and meditative at the same time. And I love doing it. I also love soul collage, but that's another story. That's one of my favorite things to do, to sit and do that when I can. But these are all to be mindful in the moment, where it's just you spending time really with yourself and something that you enjoy. But I think that's great that you give it out to clients. That's perfect.
Thank you. So interesting. We were having a conversation before, Marissa, and I want to go back to that. You mentioned soul collage. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
It's both a therapeutic technique. It's a modality at the same time. It deals with my take, or the terms I like to use. I like to call it a visual journal of someone's life, and that is personal. And generally, it was a psychotherapist who initiated it, and she created this system. And the cards are 5 by 7, but there are people. I mean, I could talk on and on about it, but there are people who they feel confined to 5 by 7, but that's really what the therapist had initially started, the 5 by 7 cards. And it really is it's a little detailed. There are different suits, and it is a journal of your life, and it's whatever you make out of it, and you are free to put on whatever pictures. I think earlier we were talking about Hollywood and how pictures are visceral. This is really what it is. It makes a statement. It makes a statement to you, and you can do it any way you want. I mean, some people tear, some people cut out very meticulously, and it's collaging, but it's some people draw around the outside with colored pens. Some people detail outline. It's whatever you want to make of it. And then they collect these cards. Some people have hundreds and hundreds of cards, and they use them. They use them to journal. They use them to meditate on. Some people, the therapist herself, her name, she passed away sadly a few years ago. Her name was Sina Frost. She actually would read her cards every morning. She would draw 3 cards every morning and read them for her day. People are free to use them any way they want, but really it comes down to no words, just pictures, and it's your personal journey in life. That's really what it is.
That is so interesting. Just so there's no confusion, I just want to get clarity on. So this is nothing like a vision board, correct?
Well, a vision board has the same impact visually for people. People create a vision board. I know some people call it treasure mapping when it first had come out, but vision board is you putting in front of you visual representations of your intentions. But with a vision board, ironically, you use words often. Some people use only words. With soul collage, it's really not supposed to be words. There are people who do sneak words on there, but it really is not supposed to be words. It's supposed to be through pictures that you are creating this vision of your life, past, present, and future, people, places, and things that are important to you, archetypes that resonate with you, uh, aspects of your personality. That's really what it's all about. But with no words, it's supposed to be. Like I said, sometimes though people do sneak a word here or there, but really you're not supposed to. It should be just pictures. And it can be pictures anyway, whether you cut them out from magazines, from old books, from you want to draw something on there as well, whether you want to cover the entire card. It's always individual based on the individual who's doing it, because some people want to cover the whole card. Some people feel compelled to leave spaces on the card. It's a very it's intuitive, and it's also very telling at the same time of what the person's doing. A lot of people, they either love it or feel uncomfortable with it. I personally, I love it. I love just even the cutting out, I find very meditative. So but it's really supposed to be your journey, your personal journey.
I find that so interesting. And I have to say that thank you for pouring your knowledge in, not only into me, but into our viewers. I've never heard of this before, and I find it so fascinating and so interesting. And thank you for elaborating on it, because I'm sure our viewers are going to find that very interesting. And it also gives them a little peek as to some of the things that you can do in therapy. And maybe, again, will give them a different perspective as to what therapy is and what you can do in therapy, which is not what they see in Hollywood, like we were
Right.
speaking about earlier. Now, I'm going to go back to the pandemic and COVID. For individuals who have lost family and friends to COVID, what what words of wisdom can you share with them?
Well, as I've told some people that I actually have as clients, but I feel that there has to be closure. This has been so terrible for closure. People couldn't even mourn the loss of loved ones. I think that that's so important. Whatever your personal ritual or rite, your prayers, your method of mourning, I think that you owe that to yourself, to the person who's passed over, to the other family members, however way you can do that, whether you have to do that alone, whether you're using social media with relatives because you can't get together. But I think that there has to be mourning and loss, and it has to be spoken about, and it has to be um, thought about, and taken time from your day to put that aside, to make it a point that it should be done. because that was really the worst part, the inability to have closure, almost a feeling, and a lot of people have guilt because there wasn't closure as they saw it to be. It wasn't traditional closure, and that's a lot of guilt for a lot of people that are left behind.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Marissa. Um, I'm sure a lot of people are going to find that very helpful. Um, I lost 6 friends to this pandemic, and it was difficult for me. One of them was also a business associate, because before I started doing the work that I do, I used to sing, and it was my manager, and he was like family to me. My whole family knew him. We would tour together, and when he passed, it was very difficult for me. It was as if I lost a family member, and I remember that I had to mourn his death and really feel it, and really go through that, and I mean, honor him as well, and just, remember him. And it was a difficult time for me during that. So the words that you're saying really resonate with me, and what you just shared with the viewers.
Whatever way we can safely do. Hopefully, we'll be able to have more contact at some point. I'm sure we will. Um, History sadly does repeat itself. And if we look to example, this has occurred before and people have gone on afterward. I think when we're right in it, we're so fearful that we're scared that it's never going to be the same, but I'm sure we'll all be fine. It's just going to take time. So that's what I'm looking forward to in the future.
Thank you for sharing that. And you said one thing that I love, that you said this, that the past repeats itself. We've been through this before, and this too shall pass, because it will. And that's something that I feel that people need to hear now more often. And especially coming from someone like you, it's very important that people hear this, so they can see that it is a reality, and eventually this too shall pass. So thank you for sharing that. Can you please share, Marissa, your contact information and your social media handles, so our viewers, if they're interested in learning more about you, or even seeking you out for your services, so they can contact you?
Yes, the best way to actually reach me is going to the website. It's the letter U and then recreate.com. It's the easiest. It has a phone number directly. It's a 24-hour number because people need help at all times. They can actually reach through the online form as well. That's the easiest way to get a hold of us, and especially me in my office. But the phone is 24 hours, so it doesn't matter the time. And then I am seeing virtually, so that can work for most people if they want. But I do have a Facebook page for my office. I do have that. It's under the Alternative Therapist Partnership. Um, that would be the easiest to see what's happening there.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Marissa. Marissa, I'm so grateful for you. It was an honor to interview you. You are such an interesting human being. You're a beautiful human being. You have such a beautiful soul. God bless you, really. I really enjoyed having this interview with you. And again, I'm going to invite you in the future when we're back into the studio. I would love for you to come back and do an interview in person, so this way I can physically see you and give you a hug,
Oh,
because you're
wonderful.
so amazing.
Oh, I'd love
Um,
to. I'd love to come to the studio. That'd be great.
I would
Thank you
love
for
to
having
have you.
me here. It was fabulous.
Thank you so much for giving some of your time, because I know that you are very busy doing the work that you do. You're out there helping people in the world and just giving back. And that's just such a beautiful thing. So, Marissa, thank you again for being on the show. And I look forward to seeing you in the near future. And we will definitely speak about getting together and having you come on our support group call, because
Oh,
I think
wonderful.
it would
Thank you.
be very beneficial for our support group.
Oh, thank you. I would love to help out. That would be great.
Thank you, Marissa. Folks, this is it for this show. I look forward to seeing you on our next show. You got Marissa's information. She's an amazing therapist. Look her up. And I look forward to seeing you all on our next show. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Mwah. Namaste.